Apple's iPhone lineup is about to look different than it has in over a decade, and that means the usual advice of just buy whichever one fits your budget doesn't really apply this time around. Instead of one unified September launch, the lineup is reportedly splitting into two separate moments. This September brings the Pro models and, for the first time, a brand new foldable iPhone. Early 2027 brings a completely reworked standard iPhone 18 that's reportedly closing the gap with the Pro tier in ways the base model never has before. That split creates a real decision for anyone due for an upgrade. Do you buy into the fall lineup now, or do you wait several extra months for a standard phone that sounds like it might outperform its price point by a wide margin? Let's break down all three options side by side, so you can actually figure out which release date fits how you use your phone. Starting with design, since it's the first thing anyone notices. The Pro models and the Foldable are expected to lean into a more restrained, professional-feeling aesthetic. Dark grays, dull silvers, and soft, understated tones that are clearly aimed at buyers who want their phone to look serious rather than flashy. The Foldable, being an entirely new form factor, brings its own set of design considerations around hinge durability and crease visibility on the inner display, trade-offs that come with being an early-generation folding device. The standard iPhone 18, on the other hand, is reportedly taking a completely different visual direction. Instead of muted tones, it's expected to launch in deep reds, rich burgundies, distinct purples, and warm, earthy browns, colors that are bold and expressive rather than corporate and reserved. If personality and visual identity matter to you as much as raw capability, that's already a meaningful point in the standard model's favor, since it's shaping up to be the most visually distinctive phone in the entire lineup rather than the most understated one. On the display side, the Pro models have long led the way with the most refined screen technology Apple offers, and that's expected to continue this fall. But the standard iPhone 18 is reportedly closing that gap significantly by finally adopting a much smaller display cutout, achieved by relocating sensor components underneath the glass itself. That's a design element historically reserved for the priciest devices, and its arrival on the standard model means the visual difference between the base phone and the Pro tier is shrinking in a way it never has before. The Foldable brings something entirely different to the table, a genuinely larger, book-style display when unfolded, which is a completely different use case built around multitasking and media consumption rather than simply refining the traditional single-screen experience. Performance is where things get genuinely interesting because the standard model is reportedly not far behind the Pro lineup at all this generation. The iPhone 18 standard is said to be shipping with the same cutting-edge 2nm chip used across the high-end lineup, along with a bump to 9 GB of RAM. That's a significant departure from previous generations, where the base model typically inherited an older chip while the Pro tier moved ahead with the newest silicon. The Pro models and Foldable will likely push clock speeds and thermal management even further given their higher price points and more premium cooling designs, but the everyday performance gap between the phone most people buy and the phone reviewers rave about appears to be narrowing considerably. For most everyday tasks, browsing, gaming, streaming, multitasking, the standard model reportedly won't feel like a noticeably lesser experience anymore. Camera capability still shows a clear distinction between tiers, and this is probably the biggest reason to consider paying more for the Pro lineup or the Foldable. Pro models typically bring a triple-lens rear camera system with dedicated telephoto capability, more advanced computational photography features, and video recording tools aimed at more serious content creators. The standard iPhone 18 keeps things simpler with a dual-lens rear setup, but the sensors themselves are reportedly a real step up, with both rear cameras using 48-megapixel sensors for noticeably better daylight and low-light performance than previous standard models offered. The front camera also gets a meaningful jump, moving from 18 megapixels up to 24 megapixels, which should mean sharper video calls and more detailed selfies regardless of which model you choose. If you're someone who genuinely relies on telephoto shots or shoots a lot of video content, the Pro tier likely remains the better choice. If your camera use is mostly everyday photos, video calls, and social posts, the gap may not feel as significant as it has in past years. Battery life and connectivity round out the practical side of this comparison. The Pro models and Foldable will likely offer their own battery optimizations given their premium chip variants and larger builds, particularly the Foldable, which needs to manage power across two displays. The standard iPhone 18's more efficient 2-nanometer chip is reportedly delivering real battery life gains of its own, generating less heat during demanding tasks and translating into longer real-world usage between charges. On the connectivity front, expanded satellite messaging is reportedly rolling out to the standard model as well, moving beyond emergency-only use into regular texting and